listening to the Otasso Outdoors Podcast.
No. Oh, no. Dude.
He had one job.
I can't handle it. Hunter was acting a fool. Oh, he's in my headspace, man.
I'm in there. It happens from time to time.
Oh, we found one of Hunter's hidden talents, and it is not pleasant.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Otasso Outdoors Podcast. I'm Caleb. I'm your host. I'm joined by my two studly co-hosts. We have Reed Robinson.
Howdy.
And Hunter Grishke.
Hey-o.
If you're tuning in for the show for the first time, we have 3 segments to this show. Segment number 1 is What You Got Buddy. That is where we all bring pre-prepared articles or headlines that we find interesting that nobody else in the pod bunker knows about, and we discuss them at length. Segment number 2.
Segment number 2 is our Spotlight series, where we search our network of outdoors friends, family, and connections. We find out who the interesting people are within our community that have like-minded ideas or, contrary to what we believe, to come bring them onto the podcast. We bring them down to the bunker. If they're good enough, we go to them. We have a at-length discussion, find out who they are, what makes them outstanding in the outdoors industry, and bring you guys along for the ride. Segment number 3.
That was a great description.
Thank you.
I love that. That was great.
Yeah.
Segment number 3 is our head-to-head game show series, where we have a quiz master, answer a bunch of questions, see who knows more, and we crown a winner at the end.
You guys clicked on it, so you know what it is today.
Extra long intro.
Today we have... I'm just messing with my mic right now, and it's not working out well. We have What You Got, Buddy. You ever have those moments where everything in your head just turns to mush? Had one of those moments.
Daily.
Yeah, it's a every other moment thing.
So while we're waiting for that thought to come back, let's hit you guys with our weekly merch check. Tonight we are rocking the navy blue Otasso Outfitters quarter zip with embroidered on the left chest. Available at otassoutfitters.com. These guys will work on their fit checks.
I need to work on that.
I walked out the door ready to go work on my pickup truck, knowing I was going to be covered head to toe in grease. Decided not to put anything nice Otasso on.
Mm.
You're welcome.
Yep.
But that's a pretty nice Two Hats Ranch hat you got on there.
Sure is.
With the nice leather patch.
That is
Drop
nice.
$10.
This is Bodie Bettis' favorite hat.
It looks good. I actually
Does look good.
I haven't seen that since you bought it.
I've got too many hats, so I just cycle through them. I've got about one or two for every week of the year.
There you go.
Guys, you clicked on it, so you know what it is. Today's What You Got, Buddy. So without further ado, Hunter.
All right.
What do you got, buddy?
I'll start us off. Let's see here. Un momento. All righty. In antler-obsessed Michigan, the state begs hunters to shoot more does. I thought this one was perfect. We've been talking about this one a lot lately.
Have we?
We have.
We've been talking about shooting does?
Yeah.
On this podcast?
I know. It's crazy to even bring up.
All right, what are they saying?
As Michigan copes with too many deer, state officials are pleading with hunters to shoot more does to lower birth rates. The average hunter in Michigan is focused on bucks. Wow, are we surprised? Which does little to combat population growth. Old habits may die hard. Michigan's hunters favor antlers more than their peers in neighboring states.
Oh, do they have the statistics on the neighboring states?
Well, let's see here.
It probably has something to do with the tag structure.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe the culture is a little bit skewed.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe just
Too many Stormy Cromer hats walking through the woods.
Okay, you can't bash on the Stormy Cromer just because Fudd's rocking them. Fudd's have one good thing going for them, and it's the Stormy Cromer.
They're sweet.
Mm-hmm.
We were up north this past weekend, and I had my hands on at least 4 different ones, and my wife still wouldn't let me get one.
That's unfortunate. I would have supported it.
I just, makes me look a little bit more dorky than I already am. So,
I'm trying to find some numbers here. It's not giving me many. It's quite long too. We'd be talking about this for a couple hours, but the only numbers that it's given me here is that we had about 800,000 hunters in the late 90s, it's saying. And ever since then, we've had a decline. So there's about 540,000 deer hunters in Michigan today.
Jeez.
Oh, that's a drastic drop.
I knew we were in like the sixes, but that's way more than I thought.
I remember in high school, that was a little over 10 years ago, I remember reading a statistic that the world's largest standing army is Michigan hunters. At the ready. Everybody like with rifle in hand ready to go. And that was back in, like 10 years ago. And the number that they gave me then was right around 700,000. So in 10 years, we've decreased from 700,000 to, you said 540?
540, it's saying on this article. Yeah.
Gosh.
So the real question begs to ask, what's it going to be next year? If people like us aren't doing our part in educating and bringing new people into the sport, because you think about it, if you've got young people that aren't getting into it, and then you've got the greatest generation who are too old now to do it, and a big chunk of the boomers that aren't hunting either, so it's kind of a lose-lose across the board.
Yeah. I think it's lose-lose for multiple reasons, though, because Michigan, we really struggle with hunter population, and it's overhunted already, but we also want more hunters, so it's like the new hunters we need to be teaching correctly, and we need to keep the numbers. But
explain what you mean by overhunted, because
I think Michigan has the most hunters to deer in any state.
I
could be wrong on
we
that.
have one hunter for every 6.5 deer. I just ran the numbers.
Okay.
With 3.5 million deer in the state, 540,000 hunters, 1 to 6.5.
Do we know how that compares to?
We do not.
Other states?
I do not off the top of my head. No. But when you say we're overhunted, that would communicate that we have not enough deer running around, when in reality we have too many deer running around. So we are overhunting the wrong deer.
Yeah, I think so. Our hunter population is too populated for the land that we have.
Too concentrated.
It's too concentrated.
Okay.
That's a better word to use, yeah.
Okay.
I thought we were behind Wisconsin on that. I thought there was a lot more hunters in Wisconsin. I remember this was one of our head-to-head questions, and the most deer hunters per capita, I think, ended up being New Jersey, but it's a smaller state. So I do agree with that. It seems like no matter where you go, there's always a hunter within 400 or 500 yards from where you're at, unless you own the property that's that big.
Yep.
So there's about 600,000 deer hunters in the state of Wisconsin, and about 550,000 of them participate in the firearm season. So only 50,000 bow hunters in the state of...
Is that stat tracking both bow and gun? If you say like there's 600,000 and X amount participate in the firearm, that's not like eliminating. That would be like how many buy tags. So 50,000. Wait, is that saying that only 50,000 bought archery tags? That's crazy.
I don't want to, say this article the wrong way, but I don't know if this number is just rifles, because it's saying 100,000 of them are expected to hang up their rifles in the next decade from that number.
I know at least 2 or 3 people off the top of my head this year that were unsuccessful and struggled and were so frustrated that they said that they were done.
Really?
Yep.
Sounds like me.
People that you know this year?
Yes.
Okay. Hunter
Mostly crossbow and gun hunters.
Hunter and I have both been expressing lately, this has been a really rough season for us. Like, we're both actually, we're eating tag soup in one form or another, and it's tough. And like, you exit the season, like you stand there on last day, you knock your arrow one last time, or you unload your rifle one last time, and you're just like, dang, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no making up for, there's no, well, I can go get a doe late. It's just like, it's done. You drive down the road and you see the deer standing on the side, and you're just like, you guys are good. For the next 9 months, you can just do your own thing, and like, there's no threat. It's been a really rough season. And the thought does cross your mind, like, man, dude, why do I do this? I just put years of effort into this season and nothing to show for it. But, give me a month to lick my wounds and in the spring bust my bow back out a little bit more and get the bug again. Next thing you know, trail cams are going back out and pictures are coming up and I'm just like, it's game back on. Like, we're doing this again. Yeah. And 2024 is like, it's a whole new horizon of excitement.
If you think about it from this perspective too, there's a lot of people that are saying, man, it was a terrible season. And then you ask them and they only sat 5 to 6 times.
Yeah.
Like if you actually take a step back and look at it from a 30,000 foot view, you have, this is maximum, but you have 180 opportunities to sit and deer hunt in Michigan season.
You talking in terms of days?
Just sits. You technically have 90 days. 91 days. You have 90 days and
times 2.
Times 2, morning and afternoon. You have 180 opportunities if you wanted to go out and sit with multiple different kinds of weapons. And so I feel like the people who get frustrated and dog on it, but they only sat 2 or 3 times, like, did you actually do it justice? Yeah. Some people don't have the time, and that's normal, but...
And, that's not to say, like, I couldn't have made it successful. I passed on a lot of deer this year. My biggest mistake in 2023 was I did not follow a new rule that I am establishing for 2024 through the rest of my life. Fill the freezer first. I've always had it in the back of my head, like, wait till late doe season to fill the freezer because, you want to give the doe the longest amount of time to whatever. Or in early season, it's tough because, you shoot and you're under the gun because it's hot outside and it's harder to hang them. And there was plenty of deer I passed on because...
You know what it is for me?
It was 50 degrees outside. And I was like, I can't hang my deer up.
You want to know why I've never done it?
Why?
Fawns are still feeding. Those first 3 weeks of October, you're still seeing fawns go to the nipple. Then that's hard for me.
Yeah.
They're not on a full food diet yet.
I support the does early, but I think it should be at a property where you're not trying to focus on a specific buck. I don't think you should be shooting does at your prime buck hunting property. Early season especially.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's hard because, in more recent years, I've switched a lot of my diet over to venison. So I really do rely on that 1 to 3 deer every year to just, get me by eating food, feeding friends, feeding family. And, this year I was like really heavily focused on that and, always chasing antlers because I wanted, properly manage my deer herd. So it's like, to take the opportunity to shoot a doe over a buck on a sit, it's like, yeah, sure, no big deal. I just always pushed it back to late season because it just seems like the most optimal time to do it. And then you have a gun in your hands and you're like, well, yeah, it's a shoe-in, no problem. And then you go out and you sit the last few times and like the deer just, they're spooked. It's late season. They are so skittish.
I really struggled. I struggled with that this year.
Late season this year was brutal. And
it was warm. It rained.
It was warm and rained all season long. Once again, there was plenty of nights that I passed on deer because I knew it was just going to be a mad dash. I was going to be up all night processing, and I was like, already under the gun with everything else in life that I was like, I'll just pass on and wait for it to get colder. And then by the time I was back out in the woods and able to, shoot a deer, once again, still warm outside. I was like, oh, well, I'll just wait till it gets colder. Just didn't happen.
I think we had like 2 or 3 cold snaps.
Yeah.
And that was about it.
Yep.
So,
and even then it wasn't like below 32.
No.
It was hovering at 32. It was spitting rain. It was kind of gross.
There's something to be said about a snowstorm and deer movement.
Yep.
And we had snow that landed maybe 1.5 inches and it stayed for what? A week? Tops?
Yeah. A couple days.
If that, yeah, 3 days, I think. And yeah, I mean, usually hunting the morning after a brutal snowstorm is awesome. Or like 2 days after, all the deer start waking up. They need to move. They need to eat. They need to dig up, whatever it is. Hunting those field edges those days. Oh my gosh, it's phenomenal. But this year was just tough for it. But to hear that you have buddies that are just straight up saying, "I'm hanging it up. I'm done." Do you think they're going to hold to it?
I don't think so. There's enough of them. They'll get that itch when September rolls around again. But these are guys that go out with their 350 Legend and sit in a box blind with a heater and their wool socks, and they're in one spot. Granted, one of the people too brought a big grain bin blind out on October 27th and plopped it in the middle of the property, and then wondered why he didn't see deer.
That's a good way to do it. That is a good way not to see them. I tell you what.
Just recounting what we were at earlier. Wisconsin has 2.6 deer for every hunter, but they still last year they shot 330,000 deer,
something like that.
In the entire state they have, I think, 1.6 million deer. So we have double the deer, almost the same amount of hunters. Well, a little less than hunters. We have like 3 times as many deer to hunter ratio than them, and they're still outperforming us. So it's not a issue of too many hunters or like that we're overhunted. I think it's just the fact that we're taking the wrong deer. We're killing all of our, of the whole package of deer that we have to shop from. You have 50% doe, 50% buck, roughly, and
less than that.
You think
it was less than 50%? It was 42.
Well, yeah.
Of the deer that are available to shoot.
Oh no, I'm saying harvested.
40. Oh no, yeah. But we're shooting that primarily 1 to 2.5 year old buck is what's getting killed in Michigan.
Yep.
And then the 3-year-old, maybe a small sliver of the 3-year-olds, and then 1 percentile are 4, 5, 6, and 7. And everything else is just does that are walking. And our population is through the roof. There's 3.5 million deer.
The science makes sense when you think about it. You pass on a doe in November, she gets bred, and then in the spring she has it's rare for a doe to have 1 fawn. Most doe have 2 to 3 fawns per season. So every doe that's not killed is going to provide at least a minimum of 2 more deer. So if everyone's out there filling their combo tag or killing 2 bucks and not killing a doe, the population's just going to keep growing and growing and growing and growing. That's why the DNR is talking about pleading with people to shoot doe. I mean, it makes perfect sense when you think about it. So even if you were, like we talked about with Connor, even if we switch to a 1 buck tag, it's going to make people kill 1 doe. And if you take...
You think it's going to make people kill a doe? Or they're just going to shoot their buck and call it for the season?
Incentivize them.
I think there's a lot of people out there, especially ones that have families, like families of 4, families of 5, that 1 deer is not enough meat. So there's 2 of us, and 1 deer for me is plenty of meat that can last me a whole year. And that's not cooking all the time. But there's some people that cook venison every single meal. No. But feeding a family of 5, 70 pounds of meat does not last.
No.
You can burn through that in 3 months.
Yeah, it'll go quick.
So if you limit to 1 buck tag, they're not going to be chasing that buck. I mean, think about the time that you spend patterning and chasing and following a buck. You kill that buck. Now your does are dime a dozen. You're not stalking. You're not waiting for the perfect doe. It's just like you shoot a couple doe and you're done. Now that 1 hunter has saved potentially 6 more deer from coming into the herd just by killing those 2. So if you do the math on that, and you take however many 500,000 hunters, if they each took 1 doe, just 1, 500,000, and at a minimum 2 deer, think about how many deer would then be removed out of that gene pool naturally. Right?
Yeah. Theoretically.
I mean, you're talking 1 million right there.
Right. Well, that's exactly what we were talking about the other night. You shoot 1 doe, and not only did you kill 1 deer, you killed off an entire generation. You shoot a buck, you could argue, well, you're killing off, 4 generations because it's not going to breed those, but another buck is going to breed that doe. It's not like you're taking the generational like ability to reproduce out of the herd. You know, you kill one deer, that one deer is gone, but all those, like that doe that he was going to breed anyway is going to get bred by another buck, and that doe is going to produce 2 more deer. So you shot 1 deer and three now in the spring are walking. Whereas you shoot that 1 deer and that deer died and 3 deer aren't there in the spring, and then that 1 buck is there. You know, or
that's the thing that's got to be communicated to people to make them understand more where the problem lies, because I think they look at it from the perspective of just shooting bucks because it's part of the hunt. But once people understand that the reason our bucks aren't getting to the full potential that they are is because people aren't killing doe, it's so clear. That's the thing, is I just don't understand why people don't get that. And they don't understand it. It could be they just don't care, which is fine. But it's such a simple concept in my mind. It's simple.
It is.
That's a survey we need to run. I'm trying to figure out right now, like, what is the ratio between meat hunters and trophy hunters? If you want to say, like, I'm just shooting antlers, right? Or I'm going to shoot the antlers because I want the antlers. I want to know what the Michigan demographic is of meat hunters versus trophy hunters.
I'd be willing to say 60-40.
You think it's that? I mean, that would show in the numbers.
The amount of people I know that do not care what the deer is. They'll go to public land and they will shoot anything.
Yeah.
Comes through, they want to fill the freezer, they want to be done. They want to wash their hands of it. They're there for meat, just boom, boom, done.
Deer camp, opening day.
A, they don't have time. B, they're not that invested into it. They just want some good meat in the freezer and have a good time with the boys.
Yep.
Which I'm not knocking anybody that does that at all. If that's your tradition, if that's your vibe, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you in return are complaining about other hunters and trophy hunters and the lack of big bucks, that's where you got to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
But there's a large demographic of people out there that I think that just genuinely don't really care about that. And who am I to judge that?
Yeah.
If they genuinely don't care. If they're being hypocritical about it, that's a whole different story.
I'm struggling over here because I'm reading an article trying to research a bunch of stuff right now while we're on the fly. I'm reading an article from Okayest Hunter, who is Okayest Hunter, your Instagram is hilarious. And the stuff that you put out is really, really funny. You do a great job marketing. And I appreciate what Okayest Hunter does bringing people into hunting. They are very good at that.
Absolutely.
They're very good at that. They are our antithesis for the message that we preach on deer management. They bring more people into hunting. The methodology that they bring is absolutely abysmal for the deer management.
I agree with their mindset of like shaming on the internet. Like I don't like that. Like at some point, you got to have a little bit of bullying to get people to wake up, but you got to do it in a good, loving way. And so the amount of people that are out there trashing people for shooting certain size deer, I don't agree with that. And that's a big message that they preach, and I really, really appreciate it. But
so this is the opening statement for this article that they posted. You can't eat the horns, or can you?
You can stir the chili with them.
This is not my article, but this is just where we're going, because Okayest Hunter is like, they're coming up in the game right now. Every Okayest Hunter knows that one thing: never pass, which is like the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard.
That
was pretty bad.
That one drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Never. It's like, oh man, dude, like that is the worst thing for the deer population. But okay. Oh, my eyeball just went out of focus really bad. Says when you've been out of luck for 8 seasons and your spouse thinks you cheating on you when you go hunting because you eat tag soup every year, you can't afford to pass. Everyone likes to rip on the hunter who brings home the 1.5-year-old button buck, but for years, but we've had one defense: you can't eat the horns. And then it goes into this whole thing on, how you can give them to your dogs, and people need to know that you can only give certain things to dogs because, will dogs automatically eat the part of the antler that they're supposed to have, or do they eat the whole thing?
I don't know that answer. I know personally that mine eats everything.
Ruger, shout out to you.
Yeah.
Talks about, using antlers for medicinal uses. A lot of people think they're aphrodisiacs. That is false. Don't do that.
Have you tried?
No,
We can try it.
Did it make you horny?
The only known aphrodisiac is testosterone. So if you want to get hard from eating something off of a deer, eat the nuts.
You want to get bucked up?
Speaking of buck
Babe,
nuts,
why are you so big? I ate buck nuts.
is that why you guys both failed this year? Is because you didn't want to have to cook up buck
Dude.
nuts?
I
didn't even think about that.
have buck nuts vacuum sealed.
Oh,
I don't know. Where are they? I have them. No, they're in my mom and dad's freezer right
we
now.
need a cook pod. A cook pod, and we'll cook them and eat them on.
Yeah, no, I do have
Turn
nuts.
on that vent fan.
I do have nuts for us.
Okay, keep reading.
Perfect.
Let's see. Put into capsules and used as a supplement that one would expect, but they're all sorts of different uses for them. Talks about using them for dogs. Dogs can eat on them. Good for them. You can eat the bone marrow out of the antlers. If you're in the wilderness, like Steve Rinaldo, the bone marrow makes a great substitute for butter when preparing meat and meals. Out of the antlers, though?
I never knew there was bone marrow. I don't think so.
Okay.
I
So
think there's something wrong there.
to okayest hunter, if you're going to shoot a deer, you're telling me that you're going to take the spike that you have and cut it in half with whatever, a bandsaw, and get the bone marrow out and use that as a butter substitute?
Maybe if you shoot it early season.
Early season, yeah.
They're hardened antlers.
I don't know.
There is a little bit of life in them because you got to think about, they're holding on through season. There's life. There's still blood pumping deep within them, right? It's that die off of the, what is it? It's the die off deep into the pedicle is what makes them drop.
At the end of the day, I guess if I was shooting a 1.5-year-old 6-point, I'd be embarrassed too and want to find ways to get rid of the antlers.
Okay, but they called out Steven Rinella for him using the bone marrow to substitute as butter. I know the episode that they're talking about is when he shot a moose. And
it's the femur.
He cut the femur open.
Yeah, absolutely. Any big bone has bone.
Compared to antler. I mean,
I really don't know once an antler hardens if there's actually marrow in them. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
The use of antlers was surprised to know that the most of us was in gelatin. That's right, deer jello. We're not sure who the F was ever supposed to put stuff in gel. Anyways, apparently you can make gelatin out of the antlers.
Okay. You can't eat the antlers statement drives me nuts because if you're gonna say you can't eat the antlers, I think that statement is justifying killing a deer before it reaches its full potential.
Exactly. And
so if you can't eat the antlers, then shoot a doe. Because if you're saying the statement you can't eat the antlers, that means you really don't care about the antlers. Therefore, shoot a doe that's going to reproduce into 2 or 3 other deer and help the population, therefore helping the habitat. You're doing way more by shooting a doe than shooting a small buck. Tell me I'm wrong.
Here's the 4 arguments that Okayest Hunter posted for why you can eat the antlers. 1, Chinese aphrodisiac. False. Only testosterone is an aphrodisiac. Give them to your dog. Dogs like to chew on them. Yes, that's what shed hunting season is for. Don't shoot small antlers. Use the bone marrow as butter. Wrong. Use the femur. It's better. 4, make deer jello out of the antlers, which nobody's going to do. So don't wrong. Don't shoot the small deer. You can't eat the antlers. Okay, no, you can't. Don't shoot small deer.
Shoot a doe.
Exactly.
That doe is going to make 2 or 3 other does. Our population is booming. It's going out of control. Our habitats are toast. Shoot a freaking doe.
And once again, I don't want to get on here and make enemies with Okayest Hunter. I think a lot of the stuff that they post, especially on getting people into hunting, is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
But the little the FUD defense, it doesn't help. It doesn't help the sustainability of hunting.
Do you think it's because like the message that's preached there, do you think it's just a lack of understanding of how habitat conservation and deer management works? I don't want to assume that, but that is anybody who understands deer habitat conservation and everything in that realm understands that the more bucks that are killed And the less does that are killed, the population's going to keep growing. And you look at farmers' fields. You hear that's why farmers have to get block permits, because these deer are decimating their crops, because these does are having 2 and 3 fawns every single year, and nobody's killing them before they can give birth.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's a lack of education, because, obviously these guys are going in and doing a lot of research, and they're developing whole brands around this concept, or developing whole branding opportunities around getting people into hunting. There has to be a bunch of research done into that. What I equate it to is Okayest Hunter is like the Planet Fitness of outdoors media.
Ouch.
Because they want to get people in there, but you go to Planet Fitness, and if you actually start lifting heavy and you start doing things the right way, and you do things in a way that is really good for your body, and you throw things around and you grunt through it, you start getting shamed. Mm-hmm. Judgment-free zone, but then you go and lift yoked out, and they judge you. It's okay, so we want to keep you guys, we want to get you into the sport, and we want to make it okay for everybody that feels shamed and feels put down because they're shooting small deer. And let's attack the guys that are shooting big deer then. Maybe they're not attacking guys that are shooting big deer, but they're attacking the guys that are preaching, hey, don't shoot small deer.
I don't necessarily think it may be that, though. I think they're attacking the big guys that are shaming the other people for shooting small deer, which I don't. And there's a fine line between attacking/shaming somebody for shooting a small deer and coming alongside them and saying, hey, congratulations on your deer. I'm glad you had this experience. Have you thought about it this way?
And I think that's where we, as big game hunters, trophy hunters, whatever you want to call it, we are trophy hunters, unashamed trophy hunter. But trophy hunting is the best thing that you can do for deer management. If you hunt right, you shoot your doe, you manage your population. If you're trying to grow big deer, if you're a trophy hunter, you're trying to grow big deer. If you're going to try to grow big deer, you have to manage your herd properly. If you manage your herd properly, there's going to be a nutrition plan. There's going to be a cull plan. There's going to be selected harvesting with your target bucks. Everything is suited towards making the best habitat for the deer. You got that grin.
I had a thought after you said that. I'm willing to bet that trophy hunters have killed more doe than most other people.
Probably.
Unpopular opinion. Trophy hunters kill more doe than meat hunters.
Trophy hunters and Volvos. Smoking them on the road.
Because the trophy hunters they're the ones that are letting the deer get to full maturity. They're the ones that are chasing that, but also at the same time, they understand what needs to be done. So they're doing habitat management. They're doing food plots. They know that they have to have a balanced herd. So they're the ones that are saying, hey, I've got to take 8 does out of my herd this year in order to sustain a healthy buck population.
Now, I'd totally love to finish that thought, but I completely forgot where I was going with it. But that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Caleb, what you got, buddy?
Oh, well, kind of piggybacking a little bit off of what we were talking about today. Headline reads, an out-of-control wolf population in Michigan's vanishing Upper Peninsula deer herd. I've read 2 or 3 articles about this today. This one specifically comes from Outdoor News. So it says Michigan's Upper Peninsula sportsmen's group have been sounding the alarm to no avail concerning the destruction caused by the uncontrolled wolf population. The 2023 UP harvest is on track to break yet another worst year. Hunting is a billion-dollar industry in Michigan, and much of its revenue is spent in the UP.
Do they know what percentage?
There's not a percentage. I want you guys to discuss this while I have to log into my account.
I feel like for the most part in the last 10, 15 years, I've only heard bad things about hunting in the UP.
I think there's way more wolves than people think. Right now, the DNR is releasing saying that there's 600 to 700 wolf up there, and based on what we talked about the cougar issue, and
there's no cougars in Michigan.
Throughout that, we also got a lot of messages on people talking about wolves, and they're saying there are way more than 600 or 700 in the UP because they're in the Lower Peninsula now. People see them.
We're going to get the bunker raided so quickly, dude. Give us all your terabytes of information. We deleted it all. You'll never get our information.
It's all in the interwebs.
Man.
I don't know.
It's
Okay.
a moot point because it's like, no, go ahead, finish it.
I got the rest of the article. So people are saying there are fewer hunters today than there were 10 or 15 years ago, and that is true, but that should also mean more deer for the hunters to see and harvest. That is not happening. In most places, hunters see very few to no deer when in the field. When you schedule a hunting trip to an area with no or low deer populations, the 2022 DNR minimum wolf count was at least 631 wolves in the UP. We believe that average number is north of 2,000.
In the UP,
Yeah, just the UP.
there is a big difference between 631 and 2,000.
Yes.
Can we
I
talk
agree
about
with
that for a second?
Yeah.
Can we talk about how, like, the DNR can't even count to 1 for cougars? So we can't really trust their numbers anyway.
So one of the main problems of an uncontrolled wolf population is that the deer numbers decline and the wolf numbers increase. Starvation and infighting will then take its toll on the wolves. Is that how we want to manage our wildlife in the UP? Through starvation and infighting. The DNR will add a new way to count wolves utilizing trail cams during their 2024 winter wolf survey. As part of the wolf camera survey, they plan to divide the entire UP into 202 cells with 8 cameras per cell to calculate the wolf population. The DNR did a 3-month pilot survey in 2022, and they put 200 cams in a 2,480 square mile section in the central UP. Sorting through pictures identified each animal by the species: deer, bear, wolf, etc., etc. etc. means cougars. The AI program will also blur out people and vehicles. Technology exists to identify individual wolves. Most sportsmen's club in the Upper Peninsula agree entirely the new way to count wolves. If anything happens to those cameras, there will be significantly less information. We plan to monitor the process of this survey closely. One interesting note about this first survey is that it took pictures of 4,221 wolves and 7,534 bears. Interesting. There are supposed to be 10,000 bears across the UP, but there are only 631 wolves, which is not what this survey is showing.
Did it just say 4,000 wolves, like individually?
They took pictures of 4,221 wolves
I wonder
in
how
2022.
accurate that is.
Well, that's how many are repeats.
Okay, so they had 4,000
Pictures.
wolf pictures. Got it.
Same thing
That makes
with
me
the
feel
bears.
better.
So the wolves are federally listed as endangered, and many residents say there is nothing the state of Michigan can do, which is totally false. The DNR can stop saying wolf population in the UP has been stable for the last 10 years at between 600 and 700 animals. Tell it like it is. We have an out-of-control wolf population, and they are wiping out our wildlife, especially deer. This would be helpful in the delisting process and would even change the public opinion on wolves. With 7,500 gray wolves in the continental United States and over 77,000 gray wolves in North America, they are hardly endangered.
We just need to do with wolves what Texas does with immigrants and sending them to New York. We just need to drop a few in Lansing. Like,
That's funny.
capture 200 wolves. Not even. 50. No, 20. 20 wolves in Lansing.
Would that solve our deer issue down here?
It might. So I just looked it up. One wolf will eat, on average, about 27 deer per year.
Oh,
So if there are 2,000
of
wolves
deer.
in the UP, that's 54,000 deer killed in the UP every year by wolves.
wow.
Not to mention all the cattle, sheep, all the livestock, little floofy dogs on chains, everything. But yeah, if you want to solve an issue, like put it in people's faces. Like even New York right now is coming out saying like, okay, we need to figure out what to do with this immigrant thing because there's like way too many. And Texas is like, well, no, duh. But you have a bunch of people that are in legislation down here in Lansing. They're like, no, the wolf population is fine. There's 600 to 700. Like that's stable. That's managed. If there's 2,000, that's a big deal. That's a big difference.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
We were supposed to get up to, if I remember my numbers correctly, we were supposed to get up into the 500s or 400s. They, I think, deemed was an effective population for wolves in the UP. and then they were supposed to manage it from there. Now, if we're well up over, I mean, we're already past our benchmark, and the problem is that wolves are federally listed, but Michigan can override that on a state level, I believe.
They can. It just said that they could. They just have to admit that there's a problem. It's wild. I've read, and here's another one from Go Hunt. It said Michigan weighs in the potential wolf hunting season. If wolves are delisted, should Michigan hold a hunting season? This question is currently making its rounds in the Mitten State as the Michigan Natural Resources Commission, the MNRC, determines whether or not that will occur if the state's largest predator is removed from the federally endangered species list, according to the Detroit News. With annual tallies, again, between 600 and 700 wolves are thriving in the Upper Peninsula, and Michigan officials say that the state's wolf population has stayed stable for 12 years. I don't agree with that. However, whether the state would hold a wolf hunting season continues to be a divided topic, one that invokes those passionate for a season and those who are strongly against one. People don't like wolves, said Brian Rowell, who is a Michigan Department of Natural Resources wildlife biologist. Unlike any other wildlife we deal with, it's a love or hate relationship for most folks. Supporters of a potential hunting season says it would protect deer, livestock, and pets, while those against one say wolves help maintain a balanced ecosystem. Others want wolf management regulated at a state level rather than a federal level. In Michigan, wolves weren't always a protected species. In fact, up to 1960s, Michigan residents were paid bounties to kill wolves.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
Once that number dropped to a point of potential wipeout, the wolves became legally protected. Even as the MNRC considers what to do for the future, wolves currently remain protected, even if they're eventually delisted, a decision that has been controversial and heavily debated about the past few years. There wouldn't be any immediate hunting season anyway. It would take Michigan a minimum of 9 months to finalize a wolf hunting guidelines.
Well, weren't we just reading recently that states already have stuff lined up saying like, hey, the second wolves become delisted, here's our plan for hunting? Was it Wisconsin just came out with that?
I think so. Or it was Colorado. I don't remember.
One of the states over there.
Do you want to hear these comments?
Yes, I would love to.
Let's hear them.
So this is a comment from Ryan Tanner. It says, the population number they post, they've admitted it's a minimum number at the lowest population point of the year. So they're saying 700 is the minimum number. He says the number is actually drastically higher. He goes, my small trap line here in the western UP has almost equal wolves to deer in the area. It's insane, and certainly no way to manage deer or increase the moose populations without decreasing the wolf population. And then Greg Leach responded to that by saying the best way to control the wolf population in Upper Michigan would be to live trap a large number of those predators and release them in southern Michigan, mostly around the Lansing area.
My guy.
Yeah. This would greatly
bring him on.
This would greatly help in controlling the southern Michigan deer population and would make our automobile insurance companies and farmers very happy. P.S. It would also be wonderful for all parties that love these animals so very much because now they can see them up close in their backyard while running off with their family's cat.
I love that.
In all honesty, I would sign a petition that said bring gray wolves back to the Lower Peninsula because it wouldn't necessarily benefit my deer population, or it wouldn't benefit my deer hunting area. It wouldn't benefit my conscience while I'm walking out to the stand. Would I love to see wolves? Yes. Does it really? But is it a healthy dose of poetic justice? Absolutely.
If hunters are not going to do the part to decrease the deer population, I think the DNR is going to look at this as a perfect opportunity to let it happen naturally.
Why not? Somebody's got to compete with the cougars.
I think it's going to create a bigger problem, though, because then all of a sudden you're going to have all these livestock farmers up in arms because they're going to have to watch.
Yeah.
Like a pack of coyotes not going to take down a cow.
No.
But a pack of wolves will.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother problem.
I mean, it definitely is going to cause massive issues. There's no doubt about it. You start throwing stuff into the ecosystem that hasn't been there for a long time, used to be there, but hasn't been acclimated to it in a long time. Yes, you're going to have issues.
Well, I'm thinking even too about like guys like Dan Cook, with Expedition Detroit. He's creating this platform, and then what happens when all of a sudden nobody wants to go to Kensington Metro Park or Mayberry State Park or State Game Area because they know there's 20 wolves in there. No one will camp overnight anymore.
I mean, Rose Lake Public Land is a perfect place to start releasing wolves.
Yeah, you want to be walking out of a tree stand. I've had interactions with wolves before,
right?
And it was one of the most scary experiences of my life.
I mean, I've not had direct interactions with wolves, but I have camped in areas where we are deep in wolf country, like deep, and I've camped in areas deep in wolf countries without any protection. Like I didn't have any pistols, I didn't have any guns, I had like a hatchet, and it's in the back of your mind, and you're like, ooh, I don't like that, but you think. Statistically, nothing's ever going to happen. I mean, when was the last time outside of Yellowstone that somebody got attacked by a wolf?
Yeah, I feel like for the most part,
you don't hear about it very often.
No. So it's not something that really concerns me. Same thing with like knowing that there's cougars in the area. Doesn't concern me when I'm walking out to the stand because it's like it's a slim chance that I'm ever going to see one, let alone have one on top of me with its fangs in my neck.
Are wolves
Sick way to go.
Are wolves and cougars?
Me just hanging up in a tree. What happened to him? Big puncture wounds. Wasn't a wolf. DNR says no. Reed's dead. Vampire.
Definitely not a cougar. Vampire.
Oh yeah, DNR would come out with a statement and be like, "Hunter got taken up in tree by a vampire. Possibly a great." I heard a great horned owl the other night. Anyways,
did you?
Oh, it was crazy. Do you guys use the Merlin bird app?
No.
Oh,
never
dude,
heard of it.
Game changer for in the woods. Like things to keep you occupied when you're in the stand. Merlin bird app. It's like the something lab of ornithology. Literally you like tap it and it'll sit there and record. This is awesome, dude.
It loves it. It loves it.
No, dude, it's great. You can sit there and like record like sounds in the woods and it picks up on like all the birds across North America, right? Well, like worldwide, but
strolling through the woods and you see Reed up in his tree stand and it's just like, those times where you walk by a tree and there's like 900 birds all up in one tree and it's just like different sounds. You have like the crows and the and Reed's just like wow.
No, dude, I always made fun of birders because like the name alone is like you can't say that word. But I got this bird app and you can record stuff and it'll pick up on it. So like when I hear a bird and I'm out in the woods and I don't know what it is, I just start recording and it'll tell me and it's like, oh, that's a tufted titmouse. I'm like, sweet. I didn't know there was such a bird. And then it breaks it down with all these like different calls that you can listen to and like you start identifying and figuring out what birds are what. And then it also shows you like, where they're at like geographically and if that's a rare bird for your area or whatever it ends up being. So it's like, I got all sorts of birds listed out in like locations that I've seen them now and I'm starting to track it and it's really entertaining to say like, oh yeah, I've seen that. I saw a common goldeneye duck the other day. It's a kind of diver duck and they're just beautiful. I was absolutely fascinated by this bird over on the river in Portland. And I looked it up and I found it. I'm like, okay, that's super cool. And I could listen to like what it sounded like and like what its geographic area is. And it was awesome. So there's wolves in Michigan.
There sure are.
There are.
More than willing to admit. So that could be our solution. We'll see what happens. Reed, what you got, buddy?
I have 2 rare birds on my bird list and it's pretty cool.
Is this your article? Do we need to end the episode now? Guys, thanks for tuning in to the Atasso Outdoors podcast.
No, where are we at? Oh, mine's pretty simple this year. This is our second year, right? Second full-time year with the Michigan deer reporting.
Yep.
Okay. And here's just a breakdown. I was reading through some articles and they're referencing on, the numbers could be 14% off or skewed, 14% inaccuracy because of how people are reporting.
You mean all the Walmart parking lots?
Nope, not that. Because I am that guy. I'm not going to tell you exactly where I killed my deer. That's a little bit too in my world. I'll tell you that I killed a deer.
It's a little intrusive.
It's a little intrusive. I'll tell you I killed a deer. I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you what day it was. I'll even tell you if I killed it with a bow or a gun. I don't care. I'm not going to tell you where I killed it. Don't give up your spots. All right. So they did a poll and they just asked people, what are the reasons? Are you reporting? And if so, or if not, why? So luckily, 88.6% of people report all their deer in Michigan. This had 179 votes. This was posted on December 4th of 2023. There's 202 total voters in on this, and of them, 88.6 said that they would report. The number one reason that people are not going to report is they are just not going to do it. 5.4% said we're not doing it.
Are those people that I'm assuming are processing their own deer? Because if you take a deer to the processor, they will not accept the deer until you fill it out and give them a confirmation number.
Yep, correct. So those 5.4% processing their own. And I process my own deer now. I still report because I want to have accurate data. I want to tell the DNR, yep, these, because it helps you manage. I'm going to give you my numbers.
It's a useful tool, and it's not intrusive.
It's phenomenal. Yeah. And, the first year, a lot of people got fired up about it. We went through the process one time, and it was like, that wasn't that painful. Other than, I'm not telling you where, if the DNR got rid of the pin on the app and just did a radius.
Just a 3-mile radius or a 5-mile radius.
Exactly. Yeah. Or, pick a quadrant of the county where you shot it. That's all we really need to know. But 5.4%.
Or a township. Like if you just broke each county down by a township.
Sure.
I'm willing to do that.
I'm willing to tell you that I hunt in Eaton County. I'm willing to tell you that I hunt in Shiawassee County. That's all fair to me. Doesn't bother me at all. But still, 5.5% said, nope, absolutely not. I'm not doing it. And I'm guessing that's just all the old curmudgeons that don't want to interact with the government at all. Yeah. They're probably in a militia as well. 3 voters, which represent 1.5%, said it was past the 72-hour window and they weren't able to. So not that they wouldn't have, but they just kind of forgot about it. Whatever. They got past the window and then they got into enter their data and they're like, hey, it's past it anyways. Wouldn't let them do it. Another 1.5% said they didn't know it was mandatory, which to those people, they just need to do the research. It's not that hard. You get the digest every year. You download the app. It's on your phone. Everything's convenient right there. Like, just read through what your laws are. Things change on a year-to-year basis. The first year we had the mandatory deer reporting, was it a misdemeanor if you didn't report?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So like pretty egregious laws. This year it was lightened up. Okay. Good things to know.
They saw the amount of hunters drop by 100,000.
Good to know.
Good to know, but still report because you need to be up to date on your laws. It's part of being a hunter. It's part of being an ethical hunter is knowing what your laws are for your area. And then another 4.5% said they completely forgot about it. They're going to, but they just forgot.
So if we harvested 300,000 deer, you got to add another 40,000 on top of that, or 35,000
potentially, because it could be anywhere from, and that's a tough one because that's
14% of hunters, not harvests.
Mm-hmm.
So some of these farmers that have block permits that are shooting 20 and 30 deer, there could be hundreds of thousands of deer in that 14%.
Well,
potentially,
it's
maybe tens of thousands.
It's so hard to gauge because that 5.4% that said they're just flat out not going to report. That is a very, that it's so hard to gauge who those people are. Because if I'm guessing they don't want to do it at all, and of that 5.4%, let's pretend like half of them are people that are just like, nope, we're not reporting because we don't want anybody to know how many deer we're taking and we're processing them all on our own. There's probably like that type of hunter that says, I'm processing my own deer, probably shooting more than 2 deer a year. I would guess if you have your own processor, you're shooting between 3 and 5 deer a year. And
you mean if you're processing them yourself?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And exactly. Not your own processor that you go to, but you have your own grinder, you have your own packing system, you have your own vacuum sealer. I'm guessing that hunter is shooting probably 4 deer a year. In my gut, that's what that tells me. So you think about, okay, that's only 5% of the people not reporting, but that 5% is probably shooting more deer than the people that are reporting deer anyways. So they represent a very large chunk of deer being killed, but they are not participating in the data. And they just flat out won't. They're not going to do it. They think it's an encroachment on their rights and their freedoms and their privacy.
Yeah.
And I get that. I do.
It comes from a place of not trusting our 3-letter agencies, when in reality, this is being used as a positive tool. This is being used in a good way to help on the back end.
Which anybody that knows me knows that I don't trust most government agencies. I don't trust the ATF. I don't trust the FBI. I don't trust the CIA.
You're starting to look like it more and more. Keep letting that beard grow.
But like, I'm red-pilled enough to be like, no, I don't trust any of these guys. I do have a soft spot in my heart for the DNR. Yes, they have, like, I have had run-ins with them when they are an authority, and I don't necessarily want to be out in the field and have a guy in green pants show up. It's not my favorite thing in the world, because it's just like, I don't know what's happening. I don't want my license to be pulled. I know that you can screw up my life. I don't want to have run-ins, but at the same time, I respect what you guys are doing. Like, more than if an FBI agent were to show up at my house, I'd be pissed. But if a DNR officer shows up in my hunt, I'd be like, yeah, thanks for being here. You know, you're out doing your job and you're doing a good job of it. And like, him being employed and being out in the field, at the end of the day, if I am being an ethical and smart hunter, benefits me in the long run. Mm. And them asking me to say, hey, can you report your deer? Like, just tell us what you shot, how many you shot, what gender it was, whatever it may end up being. It's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that, because it gives you better data on how to help me down the road. And especially like this, you know, the big alarm started going off this last year where all of a sudden the DNR goes, whoa, we have way too many does. Like, way too many does. Hey guys, here's the direction that we need to focus. And if all the hunters pay attention to that and listen, then yes, Michigan's deer population benefits from it, and the deer management gets better. There's a higher quality because of the DNR's involvement. If not, it's a free-for-all, and everybody just goes out and shoots everything. And it's like, well, then nobody has deer to hunt, or the quality of deer just goes completely through the floor.
That is a compelling argument, and I agree.
That's the end of my rant.
That was a good rant, man.
I love it.
I enjoyed that.
It's awesome.
That and go get the bird app. Holy smokes, dude.
Guys, that's all we've got for you today. Thanks for tuning in to the Atasso Outdoors podcast. As always, I'll always say it, we grow organically. So if you learned something, if it tickled your funny bone, send the show, share it with somebody. We're at Instagram, atasso.outfitters. Our website is atassooutfitters.com. All these videos are live on YouTube, so if you'd like watching your podcasts, check them out over there. That can all be found in our link tree on our Instagram. Go buy some merch to help support us. That's how we keep this bandwagon on the tracks. And with that, we drop episodes every Tuesday. So coming at you from the pod bunker, we've got Caleb and Reed and Hunter signing off. Have a good night.
Ow. These are some of my bird recordings. There's a barred owl in here somewhere.
I always thought those were frogs.
Those ones are frogs.
So not birds.
What are your rare
You have your
ones?
frog app?
I don't have a frog app, no. There's a barred owl in there somewhere. You couldn't hear it.
What's like the rarest